Everyone, this is Sue Reynolds, and we're about to begin our webinar for this month. And I just want to check real quickly to make sure that we've got the audio is fine. So I think Kim Bunn, I'm going to unmute you. And can you hear me okay, Kim?
Yes, I can.
Very good. And are you seeing a screen that says Steering Team Prep for Council Meeting 1 on the front?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. And tell me a little bit about who's there. Do we have all schools represented? And I know that
we're all in our own buildings today, so I'm actually at the middle school with my middle school council or steering team.
Okay, cool. Okay, that explains, because I noticed that we had others.
You should have probably, right, you should probably have Amy Snyder, Elizabeth Ressler, and Janet McManus.
Okay, I'm not seeing Elizabeth. Who, Elizabeth?
Might be Laura Fulton.
I'm seeing Amy Snyder, Eric Stoff, Janet McManus, Kelly McBride, McPike, and you.
Okay, well, Pike Creek's not there yet. Unless
okay.
I don't think Eric would be with them.
Okay, so that's Pike Creek, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't want to hold the rest of you up, and we do have a full agenda again. So let's go ahead and begin, and hopefully they'll join us in just a few minutes. So great. So and Kim, Eric told me that you're going to be my point person for the district, correct?
News to me, but okay.
True or not true?
It's fine.
That's fine. Is that? I'm sorry, you cut out there for a minute.
It's fine.
Okay, Eric, I'm unmuting you too. Eric, do you want to add anything with this? Okay, Eric just typed in. He must not.
Yeah, Eric says that's for the suit. Yep.
Go ahead, Debbie.
Did you see what Eric typed in?
Yeah, your superintendent has identified you as the point person for me for when I need to talk to someone about GAK. So while you're on a school team, I guess you're my point person for kind of talking about all of GAK at Mechanical.
Okay, that's fine.
So anyway, I'll give you a call later, and we can kind of talk about how all that works. Okay, so it's not any extra work. It's just maybe a conversation with me once in a while. So, and then you'll have access to some district level reports as well. So, okay. But no real big extra work at all. Yeah, good. So, okay. So let's hear from some other folks. So, and again, I'm sorry, Kim, you're saying that you think we have teams from which other schools?
You should have Mechanical Elementary, Mechanical High School, and Pike Creek.
Okay, but Pike Creek I thought was...
Right, and Eric is probably at the corp office or maybe even at home. I'm not sure where he is. But.
Okay. So who is the person at one of the other schools that I can open up their mic and check with them?
You said something about Kelly McPike. She would be Mechanical Elementary, and Janet McManus at Mechanical High School.
Okay, very good. So Kelly, let's just unmute you for a minute. And Kelly, can you hear me okay? Kelly? Okay, we'll come back. I do show that her mic is open. And Janet. Janet, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. And can you tell us who's there from your team?
Yeah, I have Stephanie Tidd, Zach Funk, Chad Carlson, Tammy Hirschberger, Heather Adams, and myself. We're still waiting on a couple people, but we're here.
That sounds great. Yeah, it's so hard when we're doing this remotely and we can't see who's in, who's there, listening. So it sounds like you all have full teams. We're still waiting on Pipe Creek. but it sounds like your whole steering team has come in, so that's wonderful. We've been monitoring your work, and Debbie's been kind of filling me in on what you've been doing, and I know you've all been busy recruiting your councils. One of the schools has already submitted your council roster, which is wonderful. So we're getting ready now for that first discussion with your council, which is always really exciting. So just want to run it through a couple of updates, and then we'll look specifically at that meeting and actually walk through the whole meeting with you. We're going to be providing PowerPoint slides, and then in this workshop or in this webinar, we'll kind of walk through each of those slides and talk about what you might say with your council members and what they might say back. And so we'll just kind of walk through the meeting. And then finally, we'll end our time together looking at the online system and just showing you the tools that you have to support this first discussion with your council meeting. So everything that we've done up to now is to get ready for the council meeting. So to put, we put your organizational structure in place, and we've been collecting all of this data, which you guys have done a really nice job of doing. I mean, really hats off to you guys in getting that data. I was especially pleased that it looked like everybody has started to collect your counselor time use data, and sometimes that's hard for schools to get started with, but you guys have really done a good job of getting started with that. So, okay, so a little bit of, okay, we just had another message from Laura Fulton. She says they're here and they can hear us. Okay, so great. Laura, since I'm not going to be able to unmute your mic, just keep typing those questions and comments in. That sounds great. Good. Okay, so, oops. So let me go back. So a couple things that we want to do, a couple of updates. One of the things that we wanted to give you a heads up on is we have decided that before releasing time use data from the counselors, that we wanted to have the counselor's permission to release that data. So there's a new step. It'll take you like just a few seconds to do on the collect data section of the process page. So and you can see the arrow is pointing to that step. It says to obtain counselor permission. And in this section, there's a tool that you'll use to gather counselor signatures, and then there's a place where you'll tell us that you've got all of your counselor permission. And then there will be a link here also that allows you to see the counselor time use data. So, so the way to work is this: you'll click on that first link in the tools column, and you'll just get a one-pager that looks like this, and it's basically saying to the counselors, by signing below, you give us permission to post your time use data on the GAK online system for your steering team to see. So, and then you're also indicating that you understand what data is there. Now, I'm going to go over this with you in a second. So your one or two counselors would just sign off, and there's a place for the principal signature at the bottom. The principal is just signing off that they're not using this data for the purpose of evaluation, but they're using it for the purpose of program improvement. So they sign off. Everybody signs off, and then when you click on the enter column, you'll just get this little statement that says that your school has all your counselors' signatures for the 2018-19 school year, and then you'll click the name of the person on your steering team that's verifying that, and then just hit save. Then when that is submitted to us, then here's the report that will open up. I had to blow this up a lot to get it on the screen, so hopefully it's not too fuzzy for you. But you'll see that each of your counselors will be listed, so your name will appear here. And then, and this is a real counselor's data, by the way, then their adjusted FTE. So this is not a full-time counselor, even though on paper it says that this is a full-time counselor. And everybody at school thinks that this is a full-time counselor, but because they're spending some time on non-program tasks, this counselor is really a 0.92 FTE and not a full-time FTE, full-time equivalency. So the report is showing that this counselor has worked some time over contract. There's been weeks that they worked more than their contract hours, and so they've just logged that. And then we've just given the raw data and then broken down the percentages of time that the counselor has spent in each one of these types of tasks. And then the very end here is the log completion. This needs to be on 100%. And if it's not at 100%, these percentages don't calculate properly. So we really have to get this up to 100%. And we give you options to say that this is free time, like lunch or something like that during the day, or it's paid time off, so your Thanksgiving would be paid time off, or you can't remember, you forgot the log and now you can't remember what you did, so you would just write unknown. And then we want to see no blanks, and then we want to see 100%. So I pulled up some of your counselors' logs, and it looks like you're doing a really nice job at getting to 100% on these. So that's good, and I hope that this data will be interesting. In order to see this data, we need to have the verification that you give us permission to release the data. So, okay. Okay. Just got another message. Actually, I'm reading this that Christy Householder is also participating in the call, but she's also not able to speak. So, yeah, when you guys are doing these webinars, if you can like call in on a phone, that way, if your computer doesn't have a microphone in it, at least you can talk over the phone. So, okay, okay. So that's that little bit on the counselor time use data release. Then the other thing we wanted to let you know is that we're having a staff change. Debbie Howell, who you have been working with, has a new wonderful position. We are so excited for her. Kind of doing the same work that she's doing with us. She's going to be, well, why don't we let her explain it, because she'll explain it a whole lot better than I will. So Debbie, do you want to just kind of explain what you're doing? Her last day is Friday, and then I'll tell you a little bit about Tina, who's going to be taking her place.
Yes, so I really appreciate all that the schools have been working on, and I've enjoyed working with each one of you. I'm going to be working with a company and training on a new computer system that's going to be implemented at the state level. And I think that's it. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of, I mean, she's kind of doing the same work that she's doing for us and training people how to use systems, and but the organization is it's with someone who's serving a state agency, and lots of room for vertical growth, which in our small nonprofit doesn't exist. So we're just really happy and for Debbie, and I think she's going to go far in that system. So we're sad to see her go. So coming in to work with you will be someone that we've actually had on board for a long time, Tina Weissman. Tina has been working, well, she first started working for us as a strategic planning specialist in 2007. So she's been working with our vision action process for a whole bunch of years. She is a former principal at Otwell Elementary. Their elementary school, when she was principal, was recognized at the state level for their gains in student achievement. She just, and her teachers just really figured out how to raise achievement. She's also been a professor at Vincennes University, and as I mentioned, she's been with us for a long time. So as of Monday, she will be your support specialist, and she'll send you all an email just, introducing herself and welcoming. I forgot to give you her email address on this slide, but you might want to jot it down. It's her last name, Weissman, W-E-I-S-M-A-N, at, and then the rest of it is the same as Debbie's, asainstitute.org. So Weissman at asainstitute.org. And Debbie, is there anything else that I should mention about this change? Debbie and Tina have talked about Debbie schools, and we think the pass off is going to be pretty seamless. Anything else, Debbie?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so just wanted to let you know about that. And then wanted to talk about the survey. So we talked about this last part of collecting data. The survey, as you know, opens on January 1st, but I just want to take 5 minutes to fly through how you set that survey up and give it. So the survey setup is in the collect data section. So you'll see there's a watch the survey setup video, so that's kind of going to talk about everything that I'm talking about right now. But when you click on setting up the survey, you'll come to a page that looks like this, and you'll select the question sets for the student survey, and that will be right in this section. We want to make sure there are 4 different question sets, and we want to make sure as a GAK school that's seeking Gold Star that you ask the computer to put all 4 question sets on your survey. That is really important. We can really get messed up later if we don't have some of that data because you didn't put the survey sets on your student survey. So just remember that you want to do all 4 survey sets, question sets. Okay, so then also down in this survey administration section, just wanted to draw your attention to a couple things. If you are choosing to have your classroom teachers give the survey, like we know a lot of high schools will say, sometime over the next 2 weeks or in second period, please give this survey to all your second period students. The instructions for how to administer the survey is here. For schools that have grades K2, here's instructions for how to do that. And then in this section, there will be a tally for how many students have surveyed in your building, so you can kind of see as the teachers are surveying how that number goes up. And then we can also provide a list of students' names who have surveyed. That's from the non-confidential side of the survey, where we're just asking students what they know. So, and then as soon as 10 students have surveyed, you can click this icon and start to get your survey results. So if you don't want to wait till the end of the survey window, if you're just curious what they're saying, you can go in as soon as we have 10 students, you can start to see the results. I think this part is sometimes helpful. Sometimes if you're, wanting to survey like we want you to 100% of your students and you're only at 90% and you're trying to figure out, well, who didn't get surveyed, you can pull this information up and kind of figure out, oh, it was Mrs. Smith's class students that didn't get surveyed, and then you can talk to Mrs. Smith about that. So, okay, so that's the survey setup on the setup page. This is when you're selecting the question sets. This is explaining if you're participating in RAMP or the Gold Star. You want to analyze data related to all 4 question sets. Would you like to include all 4 question sets in your survey, student surveys? Just hit yes for that. If you hit no, then you're given options. But so either one option, just hit yes, and then we'll pull in all 4 sets. Okay, and then if you want to see the questions ahead of time, you can click on each grade levels and you can see what we're asking in those questions after January 1st. As you know, we're redesigning the survey right now. We've had a lot of counselor input, and it's really been fantastic from across the state of changes they'd like to see in the survey. So these right now will take you to the last year's survey, and then after January 1st, that will take you to this year's. So, okay. And then the final thing is we want to know who is the person setting up the survey. Don't forget to scroll down and answer that question and then click set up. So after you click the set up the survey, then on the screen you'll get the codes for your different grade levels. So you would give the teachers or whoever's administering the survey these codes, and we would say to, say, 7th graders, when you start your survey, you're going to be asked for a code, put in 7BWP9Q. To the 8th graders, we'd give the different code. So then we're also saying on here that these are the survey question sets that you chose to put in the survey. Just make sure that there are 4 there. Okay, then we talked about here's where you get the information on how to give the surveys in grades K2, and then this is where you enter the tallies from that survey. So for the younger kids, we're just asking them to put their heads down and then to raise their hand if they agree with the statement. And then once you know how many students in grades K and then 1 and 2 have agreed with those statements, you would just enter that into that page. So there's what the administration questions look like for your K2 students, and then they're just writing in, how many students were surveyed, and then the number that said yes for each of these, and then they'll give them to you. You'll tally up all the kindergarten, all the first grade, all the third grade, second grade, and then enter it into our system. Okay, in terms of administering the survey, right now the survey takes about 45 to 55 minutes for the 4 question sets. However, the new survey is going to be shorter. So we'll let you know we're aiming for 20 to 30 minutes, hopefully closer to 20. But there's just a lot of information that we're trying to collect, so we'll get it as short as we can. The survey window is actually, Debbie, can you be looking up what their survey window is? It's on their calendar. So for you guys, it's January 1st, 2019, and then we'll give you the close win date. Okay, how do I get all students to a computer? We think the easiest way to do it is just to ask all your second period teachers to survey during the survey window, or your fourth period teachers or seventh period teachers. Another option would just be to bring one classroom at a time into the computer lab, to be, until you have all the students in the schools who have surveyed. The survey is supported on a smart tablet and also on a smartphone. So they don't have to be at computers. That's up to you, but it does work with tablets. Okay. And then just in administering the survey, all you really need to do is to give the students their survey code. So if it's done in the classroom, the teachers will just write the code on the board and then ask students to go to the website and enter the appropriate code and then take the survey. And when the students log in, this is what they see. There is a place where they enter their code. And then if you scroll down here, there's also a list or a statement that says that the survey is voluntary. That's by Indiana code. Student surveys have to be voluntary. So, and they can opt out of it if they want to. We've never had a school that has told us, oh my gosh, all the kids opted out. I think the kids, want to give their opinions of how, what they think about their needs. Okay, so that's that. I think that's it. So I'm going to pause here real quickly and let's see if we have any questions about giving this survey or
Sue?
anything else. Yes.
Yes, I don't see anybody's hands up or any questions right now, but if you have anything, type it in. But what I do see is like you said, the survey is open January 2nd, and then we have a training for these schools on February 5th, which is the training for council meeting 3, and that's where they're going to need their data. Okay,
so basically the month of January, that's what I was thinking, is where we'd like you to get the survey done. So, and again, I hope the light bulb has gone off. You don't have to survey all of your students at the same time. You could decide one week you're going to survey your fourth graders, another week you're going to survey your fifth graders. You could say to your high school teachers sometime at some point in the next 2 weeks, please take the 20 or 30 minutes that the survey takes out of your class to give the survey to all your second period students. So so just however it best works into your day to get all the kids to a tablet or to a computer to take the survey. So okay, not seeing any hands up. Debbie, anything else that's come in?
No, I don't see any other questions that have come in.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so before we move forward, just a quick review. We have done a ton of work so far, and really we are so proud of you. We think that this has really gotten a good start in Mechaniqua. You know, we've done this with a bunch of districts over the last 20 years, and we can kind of judge when the initiative is going to be successful just based on how it starts. And you guys are off to a really good start. We're really, really pleased. So, okay, so you've set up your organizational structure. I know one of your schools has already submitted your roster. Please do that right away. I know Debbie told me this morning there was another school that they had all their members. They were just in the process of collecting their email addresses so they could enter them into the system. So, you know, that's fabulous. So you've got your organizational structure set in terms of your council and your steering team. And this organizational structure is going to carry you for years. So this is really good that you've invested this time in the beginning to get that set up. And then the other thing that you've really done a nice job on is starting to collect the data. So I'm tickled that you're looking at your counselor time use data already. That's fabulous. And then I think all of you have completed the self-studies. So you've got those in, and so it's just a matter of getting the student data in, and you'll do that in the beginning of or during the month of January. So also remember I'm going to go back, in the organizational structure, you've divvied up the tasks. So there's one person in your steering team that's in charge of data. In January, they're going to be worried about the survey and making sure that it gets taken and communicating with the teachers, so that's on their plate. But also in January, and starting in December, next month in December, we're going to start now having the discussions with your council. And so remember, you've got another person on your steering team that's responsible for these council discussions. So now their, work is starting to pick up as we start to look at this first council discussion. So over the next 5 months, what we'll be doing with your council is setting up the foundations that will be underneath all of the 5 different GAK programs. So those foundations are going to drive your school counseling program, your teacher advisor program, your community-based guidance initiative. So we're setting up the foundations for all 5 programs. This year we're only going to talk about the counselor program, but next year when we get to the community-based guidance, we're going to use these same foundations. So these foundations are going to drive everything that happens in terms of guidance and counseling over the next 4 years and hopefully for many years after that. We will update the foundations once a year. Basically a year and a half from now, we'll collect new student data, and then we're just going to come back to the foundations and say, do our goals still make sense, or do we need to tweak them? Do our root causes still make sense, or do we need to tweak them? So we're setting up the foundations now, but in a year and a half from now, and then once a year after that, we'll just look at new student data and tweak the foundations as we need to. So while there's a considerable amount of work right now to get this all set up, after this, we're just tweaking. We'll never start from scratch again. So, okay. So that's what we're doing in the next 5 months with your council. And then the first meeting this month is to look at the benefits that guidance and counseling will bring to different types of stakeholders. So today, what we're going to do is just walk through the meeting, and parts of it I'll kind of maybe even role play where I'm pretending I'm you and you're the council, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I would say if I were you. And then after we've walked through the meeting, then we'll go to the online system to look at how to do the documentation of your meeting. So okay, so that said, I'm going to get out of this PowerPoint presentation and go to the slides for council meeting 1. And here they are. So, on these PowerPoint slides, you have our permission to change anything you want to. If you don't like the way we've worded something, change it. If you want to put your school's logo on the slides, do that. If you want to leave a slide out, fine. We'll add a slide, fine. Also, all of our council meetings are designed to be a 2-hour meeting. We have some schools that decide to split those into 2 1-hour meetings, but there's 2 hours worth of content. And again, after we have these webinars, that's something your steering team will want to talk about. Are we going to do this? Right now you've already scheduled dates for your meetings. So right now you have a 2-hour meeting scheduled in December for this discussion with your council. But after hearing this, you may decide you want to make it into 2 1-hour meetings. What we normally hear from council members is that they would rather come just one time and just get it all done all at once. But that's, again, this is something you might want to talk to your council about once they're convened. Is, would you rather meet every other week for an hour each time, or would you rather meet once a month for a 2-hour discussion? So, okay. So this is your cover slide. We're kind of envisioning that you've got a place set up for your meeting. You're meeting in your school's cafeteria, or maybe a local restaurant, or a local meeting facility. And you've got the slide in. People are coming in. As they're coming in, you're handing them a name tag so that people can start to meet each other. And we think it's one thing that's really important is to have one of your steering team members meet them at the door and just, shake their hand and give them a big smile and let them know how happy you are that they're here. Their participation is really key to guiding all kids. And it's just, we want to let them know how much we value the time that they're giving up to be there. So a big friendly welcome right from the get-go, we think is really kind of important. Okay, then you're doing a welcome and introductions. And as council members are introducing themselves, and this is another kind of really important part, we would like them to say, hi, my name is Jane Doe, and the perspective that I bring to our discussion is, and then we've given them some examples on this slide. I could bring the perspectives of a 3rd grade parent, or a business owner, or a Hispanic woman, or a career and tech ed teacher. So what we want the council members to be thinking about is that they represent a very unique perspective in your discussions. And if they're not there for the next meeting, that voice is missing. So, if they don't come back to the next meeting, we're not going to know, what do Hispanics think about this? What do free and reduced lunch parents think about this, or whatever. So we're allowing them to identify their own, or asking them to identify their own perspective, and they'll report that out. And as they report that out, there's a roster. Let me go ahead and show that to you. In the materials, let me see where I'm going here. In materials, so I'm going down to the manual tab now, and I'm going to the materials for meeting 1, and here's the council roster. So you have filled this out ahead of time. Let me open it up here. You have filled this out ahead of time with people's names and their phone and their email addresses, so people, as they get to know each other, they can connect with each other between meetings. But then you've left this column blank. So as people are reporting out their perspective, you would just ask people, let's write down everybody's perspectives here so we can see the variety of perspectives we have at the table. Okay, so Jane Doe says, my perspective is I am a 3rd grade parent. And so everybody's writing down 3rd grade parents here. Now, that's great. In the back of your mind, you may know that you invited Jane Doe to be there because she was the parent of a free and reduced lunch student, and you wanted to have your your free and reduced lunch students, your lower income students represented at the table. So, but Jane Doe didn't say, oh yeah, I represent lower income families. But that's okay. Just whatever Jane comes up with, we'll put that in the perspectives. But in the back of your mind, you know that Jane is also the parent of a free and reduced lunch student. So, and of course, you wouldn't want to, bring that out loud at the meeting. You're not going to want to say, oh, by the way, Jane's also here because she represents low-income families. So, yeah, don't say that. Just write down whatever perspective they come up with. Okay. Then, so now we're introducing everybody. This is really key to getting people back at your future meetings when they realize that they have a voice that's unique and that you want to have at the table. Okay. So then, these next few slides are I put with a yellow background. You may want to take these out. I just wanted to give you some resources in case you want to talk about how this all ties into your Lilly Initiative. So, and I guess if I were doing this, I would maybe use a few of these slides and just go through them quickly. So you might, you could say we're funded by Lilly Endowment, and this is an initiative that exists because Lilly is interested in increasing the number of students in Indiana who, and then you would just kind of quickly go through Indiana or Lilly's 5 aims. And then you could tell them, we went through a planning phase. And in our planning phase, we were looked at our student needs. And I just gave you some sample needs in here. You can take out the slide or write some needs that you found in your school. And then you can talk about maybe some self-studies that you did and write in some positive challenges. And again, I just put in samples here. You can, edit that to meet your needs. And then you might say, we were looking for a school counseling program that reached every student, that was data-driven, that was accountable, that coordinated student services between schools, where all adults in the community share the responsibility for guiding kids. And we found this model called Guiding All Kids, and it met all of the things that we were looking for. It's a proven school counseling approach that increases the percentage of students who make sound choices and who pass state tests. So, so this might, help them understand that you didn't get GAK just by, grabbing it out of the air. It came from a careful analysis of your students' needs, the kind of model program that you were looking for, and then how GAK was a good fit for the things that you were looking for. So, okay. And then, we're in phase 2 now. We're no longer in planning phase. We're in the implementation phase, which for your schools, it would be 2018 to 2022, since you were in the round 2 of this funding. So you'll want to edit that. And our task is to, create a Guiding All Kids plan and then implement. And, that's what we're doing this year. So what is our goal for our work together? So you're saying to the council, we're going to be working together for several years. And what's our goal? What are we trying to do through all of this? So what we're trying to do is to help all students make sound choices in areas that impact their social emotional health, their academic success, and their career success. So, and again, I'd really emphasize, the sound choices. When I'm talking about this, I try to change my voice a little bit. I slow down a little bit and really say sound choices. This is about helping kids make good choices. So, okay, and then they may be thinking, well, what choices are those? So we just give them some examples. And I would not read through this whole slide, but you might want to say a social emotional choice might be to solve a conflict peacefully instead of punching someone in the nose. An academic choice might be to turn in their homework. A career choice might be to explore careers online. There's lots of different things that successful students, lots of choices that successful students tend to make that result in their experiencing success. So, okay. So then another question that they might have is, so let's talk about, what do school counselors do? How do we help? How do school counselors help kids make these sound choices? And in this next section, what we're talking about are types of counselors' activities, but we're also introducing vocabulary that you'll be using for the next 4 years. So we talk about how counselors do 4 types of activities: guidance, counseling, advocacy, and management. And then we're going to define each of these. I'm going to fly through these slides because I've already talked about this with you guys several times. But now you'll need to help your council members understand these terms. So there's the definition on each slide. And then the other thing on each slide is we want people to start thinking about how counselors teach all students knowledge and skills, but others do too. Parents teach their kids things that help them make good choices. Neighbors do. For some kids, clergy do. Other members of the community. So, there's lots of people besides counselors that teach kids things they need to know so that they can make sound decisions. What we're doing here also on this slide is we're kind of introducing for the first time a seed that we hope will grow. And we're hoping at this point that some of your council members will start to think, oh, I'm a parent. I could teach my own kids things. Or I'm a business leader. My business maybe could teach kids things. So we're wanting folks to kind of see that the implementation isn't just by counselors in guiding all kids. It's by everybody. Okay. Then, we're just saying that, we can teach kids in groups, or we can teach kids individually. Counseling, there's the definition, and I always emphasize the word some here, and I always emphasize that now is not just anybody that can provide these services, but it needs to be a licensed professional, a school counselor, social worker, or psych. So not just anybody is going to start doing counseling or therapy with kids, that it's one of the helping professions. Okay. And then just, establishing, that kids bring a lot of issues to school. And, I think parents and community members, they're aware that these issues exist. But for a lot of them, it's maybe the first time that they've thought about, oh my gosh, schools have to deal with all this stuff before kids are in a position where they're ready to learn. And so just, getting all those things up on the screen and showing how many issues kids bring to the table, bring to school, we think is kind of important. So another task that counselors do is we advocate and again, lots of different kinds of folks can advocate for kids. We're advocating to create a culture that supports rigorous learning for all groups of students and each individual student. So, where counselors are advocates, as can anybody be. And again, we can advocate for groups of students, or we can advocate for individual kids. Management is, as we've talked about, the behind-the-scenes things. And again, we're saying that it's school counselors, but there's lots of different folks that can help manage the school counseling program. In some schools, there's a counseling secretary. In some schools, it's a community service project that an organization in the community will volunteer to provide some management. Do some management tasks like do data entry for scholarships, stuff like that. Okay, and then here's typical management tasks. And then finally we're defining non-program, and we're just saying that the school counselors are asked to do a lot of things that do not help students learn knowledge and skills they need to make sound decisions, and do not help kids address a social emotional issue that's interfering with learning. And then we're just kind of, spelling out what those things are. You could say these are common things and then point out, luckily in our school, we don't do very many of these things. You might want to put the ones that you do in italics or take off the ones that you don't do. So this is a slide that you might want to customize. So, okay. And then the next question is, who provides guidance and counseling activities? This is where we're introducing the idea that there's lots of different types of folks that can deliver guidance activities to help kids make sound choices. So community members, teacher advisors, parents, classroom teachers. And then we're talking about how in guiding all kids, we're going to develop each of those different delivery methods. And this year we're looking at just the counseling program. Next year we'll look at the community-based guidance and the teacher advisor program. And then the year after that, we'll look at the parent advisor program and the academic integration program. And then finally, in that fourth year, we'll just make sure we have everything in place to sustain this after the Lilly grant is over. So, okay. And then what results will we see? You're, just wanting to share with the council that, at the end of all this, we're going to see results. Our primary results are that we're going to see increases in the percentage of students who make targeted choices and succeed academically. if everything goes well and everybody stays engaged, and this is going to change kids' lives. It's going to make an impact on the kids in our community. And then as a secondary result, it's not the purpose of this work, but as a secondary result, we'll also be able to be recognized by ASCA and Indiana DOE as a model program. So, okay. And then finally, I know when I get involved in new initiatives, I always want to know, is this going to sustain after I'm finished with this work? If it's not, if the organization that's asking for me to volunteer my time does not have a sustainability plan, I just think my time's going to be wasted. The whole thing will fall apart after the funding's gone. So we want to make sure that folks understand that after the Lilly funding, this is going to sustain because we have an organizational structure, a program evaluation, resources, annual council meetings, and then materials. So that this is not just a 4-year initiative. This is an initiative that, by design is going to go on for forever. So, okay. And then just to help the council understand what this is not. This is not an add-on program. It's a way to coordinate lots of different services and to evaluate them. Where it's not an add-on, it's a set of foundations, and then that are going to drive lots of different initiatives. So it's also not a quick fix. If there were a quick fix to helping kids make sound choices, I mean, we'd all be doing it. So, it takes time to get all those foundations in place and to discover exactly why kids aren't making the choices that we want them to make, and then to figure out as adults, what we're going to do about it. So it's not a quick fix. It's also not counselors alone. It's, counselors implementing activities, but with Guiding All Kids, it's also community members and parents and teacher advisors and, just lots of different groups that are working together in a coordinated fashion. So it's also not about reaching out to many or most students. It's about reaching out to all students. Just like we have an organizational structure in our schools where all kids learn math, all kids learn English, this is a system where all kids are going to learn what they need to know and be able to do in order to make those sound decisions that we want them to make. Okay, so finally, in this section, what is their role as a council member? So here are their tasks. One of the things they'll do is attend 5 meetings, 5 discussions, and each of them will be 2 hours long unless you decide to have two 1-hour meetings. Then it will be 10 meetings, and each will be an hour long. They will review data. So before a lot of the meetings, not this one, but before a lot of the meetings, you will send the council members a link to a data set, and they'll have a pre-meeting task to do where they'll work through the data and find things that concern them or find areas where might explain why kids aren't making a choice that they want the kids to make. So before the meetings, they'll review some data. They'll participate in discussions, bringing their unique perspective to the table. And then they will be making the program foundation decisions. The council, not the counselors, but the whole council will be deciding what the benefits are for the school and the community, the different stakeholder groups. That's what we're going to do today, the first meeting. The whole council will create the vision, the goals, the root causes, and then the activities for addressing those root causes. So they'll be creating all the foundations, which is, kind of huge. It's a lot of responsibility. There's going to be a lot of programs that are organized around the foundations that they're creating. So that's a big role. And then finally, they'll encourage others to get involved as council members, but also later as activity implementers. So you may have a clergy member or a youth pastor, let's say, on your council. They may later will ask them to talk to all the other youth pastors in the community to encourage them to implement activities as well. So those are the council member tasks. So that's their task. And then finally, we're just letting them know, which you probably have already done when you sent them the thank you letter when they agreed to be on your council. But we just want to remind them, here's our meetings for the month. Get them on your calendar and please try to schedule everything else around them. Okay, so yeah, so that's the introduction, and then a short break, like a 10-minute break, and I'm going to pause here for a minute and see if anybody give you a chance to raise your hand and ask questions, or see if anybody's typed in questions. I'm not seeing any hands up. Debbie, did any questions come in?
Nope, we so far do not have any questions, so.
Okay. So just sometimes this gets a little like overwhelming. Just remember that that we'll be here on, the rest of the week and Monday morning and thereafter to answer any questions that you have. So the webinar will also be posted so that you can go back and look at it. But do call us if you have any suggestions. Okay, or any questions, sorry, any questions. Okay, so then let's go on, since there's no questions. So now we're having the first discussion. So it's really important to have this discussion. What people tell us is, what council members tell us is that normally when they go to school for a meeting, it's the school people talking to them. And this is really different because in GAK, instead of us talking to the council members, we want them to talk to us. And we want to get that started at the very first meeting. So everything up to now, we've been talking at them. We've been giving them the vocabulary and the big picture. But now we want to start this series of discussions where we're listening. So at this point, it's really important to be in listening mode and to let the council know that you're listening. So you'll see we're going to give you some tools where it's going to be obvious to the council that you've heard what they've said. And if you want to, you can use those tools to help facilitate this meeting. Okay. So our first discussion with the council is, let's just, talk about what are the benefits of guiding all kids. If we're going to invest our time in this work, hopefully we think that there's going to be some benefits to it. Otherwise, why would we spend our time doing this? So we want to talk about what are the benefits of guidance and counseling, of guidance, teaching the kids the things that they need to know to make the choices we want them to make, and counseling, helping the kids overcome, issues that are interfering with learning. So what are the benefits for students of all this? What are the benefits for counselors, for teachers, for parents? What are for the businesses that exist in our community and for community members? So what are the benefits? So we're going to do a brainstorm. And just to give you some guidelines for brainstorming, remember that the purpose of brainstorm is to generate as many thoughts as possible and to foster creativity. So when we begin brainstorming, it's going to be, bing, 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 one idea after another. Quick answers, no discussion of any of the answers, and there's no right or wrong. We're just going to write down as many answers as we can. So we're also going to use a Delphi consensus building model. And just aside, this is a model that gets everybody thinking before we go to discussion, so everybody has something to say. So it also allows us to bring a large group to consensus quickly. So what we're going to do is, we're going to give a brainstorm question to each of you individually. So we'll all spend just a few minutes, maybe 4 minutes, at our seats, jotting down some ideas for the question. And then we're going to break into small groups and just kind of share with the small group what we came up with. And then each of the small groups is going to share with the large group. So if you have, a healthy council and you have maybe 25, 30 members in your council, we see the small groups being maybe 4 people, 3 to 5 people in a small group. And then the large group would be all 25. So you might have 4 or 5 small groups that are having this discussion, and then the large group. Okay. So you're looking here at, this is a worksheet or a task sheet that you've given each person, and you've asked them to to just write down what are the benefits for each of these stakeholder groups. And we're asking them to start their statement is that GAK will enable students to, and then to write that down. So GAK will enable, students to do what? GAK will, what are the benefits for counselors, teachers, parents, business, and community members. So individually, and I would not give people a lot of time to work on this. There might be, there's 6 of these things. You might give them 6 minutes and then just kind of guide them along. Okay, let's move on to counselor. Okay, let's move on to teacher, and tell people ahead of time you're going to have 1 minute, and then we're going to move you on to the next one, so that everybody knows, we're writing down quick ideas. We're not, developing a thesis around each of the ideas that we write down. So, okay, so individual brainstorm. And then we're saying, okay, let's break into small groups. And in your small group, please discuss the benefits of GAKs for each of the stakeholder groups. And then write down all of your responses as they're shared and be ready to share your ideas with a large group. So you give them, maybe, 10 minutes or so to kind of do that, maybe 15 minutes. I think for this whole activity, we've allotted 40 minutes. So, maybe 10 minutes for this section. And then you're asking the small groups to share their what they've come up with the small groups are sharing what they've come up with a large group. One thing I think is really helpful with this, as we've observed schools doing this, some schools will turn to a small group and they'll say, okay, give me all your ideas, and that small group will list like 15 different ideas. And then they'll move to the next small group and say, okay, give us all your ideas, and that group will list, maybe 10 ideas. We find the energy stays up a lot more in the group if each of the small groups just lists one idea, and then you're moving on to the next group, and they're listing one idea, and the next group's listing one idea, and you keep going around all of your small groups until nobody has any new ideas left. It just kind of gets the discussion moving around. Everybody has to listen to everybody else's comments because they don't want to repeat what the group before them has just said. It just kind of keeps the energy level up a little bit more. So, okay. So then you're saying, okay, let's look at the student benefits. And then you're asking folks, let's talk about the counseling benefits and then the teacher benefits. And as they are talking about those, in the process page, let's see, there is, oops, it's not up here right now. In the tools section on the manual page, in the tools section, there will be a poster for each one of those. So what I would suggest is that of your 2 council members, one person is facilitating the discussion. Of your 6 council members, one of you is facilitating the discussion, and then the other one is writing down the comments as they're being shared. When we do this, one of the things that we like to do is that the person that's facilitating the discussion will repeat what the person who spoke just said. That helps that person know that they were heard. And it also gives the person that's scribing all the responses a second chance to hear what was said. Another little tip that when we're facilitating this, sometimes I'll pull someone aside as they're working, whoever I'm planning to call on first, and I'll say, I'm going to call on you first, and could you model that these are going to be just quick, short responses, that we're not going to go into rationale about why we think this is a benefit or explain why it's a benefit, or, we're just going to quick 5-7 words, show, explain why, what the benefit is. And then also when I'm facilitating, I like to make my voice really quick here because, I'm wanting to establish that this is going to be bing, 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 one benefit after another. Sometimes when we're facilitating this, we will do, we'll have 2 scribes and they'll take turns writing answers, so I can go really fast when I'm facilitating And, you know, the first idea will go on one poster, the next idea will go on the next poster, so we can get it up really fast and not have to wait for the scribes. So we're really, you know, one other tip here is that when, as a facilitator, when you're repeating back information, what has just been shared, the more you can use the council members' exact words, the more they're going to feel understood. If you put it in your words, there's a little bit of an interpretation that goes into that, and it might not be exactly what they meant. But if you use their words, their perception is that you understood perfectly what they meant. So, okay. So just some little tips on that section. Yeah, so then we're going all through the different benefits to the different stakeholder groups. And then finally, this is our consensus check, and we'll use this all through GAK. For us, consensus doesn't mean that everybody has to love everything, but they do need to be able to say that they can live with it and support it publicly. So, you know, you'd want to say, okay, as you've heard all of these different benefits, can you live with all that? If these things ended up in our benefit statement, can you live with it? Or is there anything that we should take off the list because you just can't live with it? If there's anything that even one person wants, no matter how much the rest of the group wants it, you have to take it off the list. Otherwise, they're not going to trust that you really mean consensus. They're going to think the consensus means everybody but them. So each person on your council has to have the power to stop the process, has to have the power to say, this doesn't represent me, and it has to come off the list. Now, if they take off something that is really popular with everybody else, you know, everybody else can try to talk them into leaving it on the list. We've had councils that in the 4 weeks between meetings, they've all, you know, lobbied that one person and said, please, please, we want to put that back on the list. And they've, you know, convinced the person to put it back on, and then the next month they'll come and put it back in. So, but I can promise you that if somebody objects to something and you go on with like you had consensus when you really didn't, the whole thing will fall apart. You'll lose total trust. So even if it's something that you hate leaving off the list, you've got to take it off if you can't reach consensus without it. The nice thing is that there will be so many ideas on this list that, you know, there will be 99.999% of the things that you do agree on, even if there ends up being one thing that you have to take off. So can you live with it? And then the other question is, can you support it publicly? You know, and what that means is that if they're in the grocery store and somebody comes up and says, you know, we saw this list of benefits, what did this mean? Do you support that? They have to be able to say, yeah, you know, I can support that. So, and on the flip side, again, they don't have to love everything on the list. They just have to be able to live with it and support it publicly. Okay, so there's the final consensus check. And then we're telling them, you know, thank you, and letting them know that you're going to use all of their input to create a benefit statement, and that you'll send that benefit statement to them for their review, and then they'll have one more chance to say, oh, I can't live with this. So, okay. So let me show you an example of what that looks like. Here's a sample in your tools section. So in the manual page, you have handouts for the meeting, and then you've got tools. And in this GAK benefit statement sample, you'll see that this is what it looks like. So, you know, here's our student benefits, and then you've got a lead-in prompt, and then the benefits for kids, benefits for counselors. So, and this will just come from all the things that the council has shared with you. So, okay, that's it for the meeting. I'm going to quickly go to the online system, but we'll pause again for questions. So hopefully you're feeling comfortable facilitating the meeting. I'm just going to check in with Kim. Kim, hi, is this making sense?
It's making sense.
Okay, no questions from your group?
Well, I do kind of have a question, because like we're having our meeting next Wednesday, and I assume we would start with our big group to do like go through the slides and then split up into our individual building groups. Would that be correct?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So in your district, if you're choosing to, that's an excellent question. Let me go back to the slides. If you are choosing to, let's see, if you're choosing to meet all together to begin with, so all the councils are coming together, which would really be a great time saver for you in terms of prepping. You would, yeah, like you're saying, you would probably cover all the slides up to the break with the large group, like in the first hour, and then split into school groups to do the benefits brainstorm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That was a great question, Kim. Thank you. Yeah, and I think it's wonderful that you're doing it that way. I really like that because it shows all the councils that this is a district initiative and that it's going to end up being K-12, you know, and not just in one building, and that everything's going to be coordinated K-12, which is awesome. So good. Okay, let's see.
Sue?
Any other? Yes.
You have a representative from all schools now because Laura Fulton did come in, so she's here from Pike Creek.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So any other questions? I'm going to count to 20 really slowly and give you a chance to think. Or actually, let's just, if you would, in your meeting spaces, let's just in the next 20 seconds just look at each other and say, do we have any questions? And just maybe somebody's too shy to speak to me, but they would speak out in your group. So let's just take 20 seconds and just confirm that no one has any questions.
So if they want to, then they can raise a hand and you could unmute that specific school.
Yeah. Or they can type it in. Yeah. So raise your hand in the bar, in the control panel, or just type it in. Either way. And when you're doing that, I'm going to go to the online system. Okay. Not seeing any hands up. Not seeing any questions. Debbie, am I missing anything?
Nope, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Very good. And Kim, that was a great. Oh, here's a hand. All right. Oh, went down. Laura Fulton, I saw your hand go up for a second. Do you have a question or comment? Laura?
I'm typing as fast as I can.
Do you want to just ask me verbally?
Am I unmuted, or I thought you said you couldn't unmute us earlier?
No, I just unmuted you. Everybody's hearing you.
Okay, so
Perfect.
There must have been some connectivity problems because we've been on since 2 o'clock. And for some reason, Debbie just saw us. I'm not sure why. But yeah, and I had clicked the raise hand earlier and tried to unmute and couldn't. So I'm not sure if we're having some connectivity problems, but we've been here since 2 o'clock.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm not sure. I know that right at the beginning I don't think we saw you, but that's interesting. So, but you've been able to hear us?
Yes, we've heard you since the very beginning.
Okay, good. Okay, that's wonderful. That's great. And I don't know why that is. I just saw your hand go up. That's weird. So, okay, do you have a question, or you just wanted to bring that to our attention?
Yeah, no, I just heard her mention that she just now saw that we were connected. So, and you had mentioned Pipe Creek earlier. So
yeah,
that's who I am. I'm from Pipe Creek. So
right.
We've been here all along.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad. And I'm not sure why you didn't appear on our control panel, but you're definitely there now. So, yeah, so good. So if anything else, questions come up, feel free, and it's good to know. So it's good that everybody knows that Pipe Creek was here too, because I know it's important to you that all 4 schools are working on this. So that's good. Okay, very good. Okay, so now so we're looking at the online system. This will take me maybe 5 minutes to go through, so it's pretty quick. One of the things I wanted to point out is that we have been working on the process tab over here in the left nav bar. And then today we also opened up some of the manual tabs. So when I click on the manual tab, just to remember that here are your resources for your first discussion with your council. Here's the handouts, and again, you have our permission to share anything. And then here's the tools that will help you facilitate the meeting. So whoever on your steering team is responsible for the meeting facilitation, this is a section I think you'll want to go to. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the process page, and I'm going to go down to Council Meeting 1, which you're having in December, and let's just kind of walk through the steps. So remember, for each of these steps, you have tools. You have a place where you're entering things, a column for entry. There's a column where reports spit out after you've entered information, and then the place where you submit things to Debbie this week and Tina next week to review. So, so register for the workshop, mark that you attended the workshop, log your counselor time use. That's something that we will monitor monthly. We just want to make sure that you're continuing to be at that 100%. So you just each month before the deadline, just submit that you're ready for us to look at your counselor log and for us to verify that you're at 100%. So if there's any issues with that for some reason, give us a call. But remember, you've got free time. You've got different types of tasks. Even if you forget to log and you can't remember what you do, there's a code. What you did, there's a code that you can put in. So okay, then facilitating Council Meeting 1. This tool icon will take you to the manual page to all the things that we just looked at. Enter the benefit statement. I'm just going to go in. That's really easy. You just get a prompt and you put your statement in there. Most schools will do a list, and if you're going to use a list, you can use a star in front of your comments if as you're making your list. If you're going to bullet your list, use an asterisk as the bullet. Okay, so then you're going to create a GAK Instagram or Twitter account. So we've given you some instructions and then where you can do that. The reason we're doing that is, one, we would like you to be able to share ideas with schools all over the country or the state, as well as with your schools. And then the other reason is because Tina and Debbie and I aren't there, it's really helpful to us to have a visual of what that meeting looked like. So we're using the hashtag guiding all kids, and if you just go into Instagram and do that, or Twitter, see if I can pull that up here. Yep. Oh, looks like I'm already there. So yeah, I'm just going to do a search for that hashtag guiding all kids, and you'll see that there's 187 posts, and you can kind of look through to see what other meetings have looked like. There's lots of different tips in there. Oops. There we go. There's what I wanted to show you. So there's lots of, you can get different ideas, like, this is how they set up their meeting. You can see here's a discussion where let me open up that photo. You can see that this school, when they did their brainstorm, they had individuals write their answers on sticky notes and put them up on the paper instead of describing them. So, there's just little ideas about how to facilitate the meetings that you can kind of grasp from looking at these photos of how GAK worked in other schools. So, okay. So then after and this can be really easy too, because it can happen during the meeting. Just, have one of your steering team members just be in charge of your Instagram account, and during the meeting they take a photo and they upload it to Instagram. I mean, it takes 2 seconds, or to Twitter. And then finally, the other thing we want to see is the meeting 1 minutes. So when I click the enter edit for that, you'll see that we're asking you to tell us who wrote the minutes, check off the people from your council that were there. Is this? Yeah, this is from Aconquan Middle School that I'm demonstrating on, so these may be people that you recognize. So you'll just check them off and then write in the minutes for what happened. There's a really unique rubric item for the minutes, so I'll talk about that in 1 second. Okay, and then the last thing on the page is the rubric items, and we really, really would like you to review the rubric items before you submit something to us, because if these rubric items aren't met, we're just going to send it back to you and say, please revise. So you can see for the counselor time use, each counselor's log completion rate is 100%. On the benefit statement, that you've listed benefits for the 6 different groups of stakeholders. That you've got an Instagram or Twitter account has been created, that you've got at least 1 meeting photo, and then for the minutes, that they contain the names of those present, so that's going to be easy because you're just checking them off. It summarizes the meeting's activities and discussions, and this is the one that is really important. They contain references to specific people who created ideas. Again, we're wanting to help your council members understand that they're heard. And if I'm reading the minutes and I see, oh, Sue Reynolds added to the discussion that, and there's a quote from me or something that I said, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it was so important that I was there that they even wrote down what I said and put it in their minutes. I'm coming back to the next meeting because my voice meant something. So that's really a critical thing that we found is very helpful in helping your council members understand that you are there to listen to them rather than talk at them in Guiding All Kids. So yeah, so that's the rubric. I think that's it. Any questions? I see Debbie, anything that I need to add that I've forgotten?
I don't think so. It seems pretty complete. I see Laura's hand was up, but I think that was up from before, so I don't see any additional questions. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So you know where to find us. The one thing we like to talk about in these is if we anticipate there being any resistance during your discussions, and there's really very little resistance on this. I think especially when you get to the second half of the meeting and people realize that you're there to listen and that they have the power to create all your foundations, and that they're in the decision maker role, they just feel very empowered and there's very little resistance. I think maybe the only place we've ever had resistance at this point is when we're talking about the counselor time use and the non-program activities. A lot of times the administrators, and rightfully so, are thinking, oh my gosh, if my counselors don't do that, who is going to do it? Is it going to fall on my plate, and I'm already overburdened myself? How is that all going to work? So just if your principal is not here today participating in this, just feel free to assure your principal that it's going to be very manageable, that we're going to take off one thing at a time from the counselors, from their non-program tasks, to move somewhere else as it's manageable. Most schools will remove some from the counselor's workload. Some schools remove a lot of the non-program. And a few schools remove nothing because there's just no one else to do the things, and there are things that have to be done. So that'll all be a discussion, and it will all be done in a way that's comfortable for everyone. So, this is not like the counselors wanting to get out of a lot of work, because that's not the case. We understand that the non-program tasks that counselors are doing are good tasks. Someone has to do them. It's just that during this we want to talk about where's the best place to put those, because we lose student and parent time for counselors when counselors are doing those things. So, okay. One last pause for questions, and then I'm going to close. Okay.
I don't see any questions or any hands up.
Okay, so as we close, just let me say to Debbie, on behalf of our organization, and I know on behalf of all you, how much we've appreciated working with you, Debbie, and you're going to be very much missed, but I know Tina is going to fill your shoes well, but they're big shoes to fill. So thank you on behalf of all these schools and our team for all the work you've done this year.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you next month, and good luck, and call us, don't wait, call us immediately if something's confusing or you don't understand something. So, okay, very good. Thanks everyone. Till next time.